Councilmember Cristina Garcia was elected in November of 2012 to represent California's 58th Assembly District, which includes the cities of Downey, Commerce, Pico Rivera, Bell Gardens, Bellflower, Cerritos, Artesia, Montebello, and a part of Norwalk. Prior to her election to the Assembly, Cristina Garcia taught statistics at the University of Southern California, mathematics at LA City Community College, and has taught middle school and high school students through the Jaime Escalante program at East Los Angeles Community College and Huntington Park High School. In promoting ethical conduct in local and state government, Garcia firmly believes that doing the right thing is worth the effort and that hard work pays off. When the Bell corruption scandal broke and gained national attention, Bell residents turned to Cristina Garcia and asked her to clean up their local government. She worked with them to form BASTA, the Bell Association to Stop the Abuse, a local advocacy organization. BASTA's efforts forced out Bell's corrupt officials and ushered in accountability and transparency for the first time in the city's history. A new city council was elected, and far-reaching reforms are now being implemented in Bell, giving citizens the good government they deserve. Garcia was raised in Southeast Los Angeles community of Bell Gardens, and she attended local schools. She went on to earn a bachelor's degree from Pomona College, a master's degree, and a secondary teaching credential from Claremont Graduate University, and is presently a doctoral candidate at USC. Last year, Cristina Garcia was recognized by California Forward with the Distinguished California Forward Thinkers Award, Democrat of the Year, and earned the Distinguished Woman of the Year Award from the California State Assembly. Let's all give a warm welcome to Assembly Member Cristina Garcia.
Good morning. Buenos dias. So she read my bio. It's actually a few years old. I'm Cristina. I grew up in the city of Bell Gardens. I was a math teacher for 13 years. I never thought I was going to be in public office. But an opportunity came my way, a sense of responsibility, and I decided to run for state assembly and totally turn my life upside down and moved in a different direction from being the math nerd I had been all my life. Along the way, literally, I was voted class nerd, and my biggest surprise is not that people thought I was a nerd, is that anyone knew who I was, because I had 2 friends in high school. But you know, I've embraced, this is my 4th year in the state assembly now, and I get to work on things like the budget. The 7th biggest economy in the world is in California, and I make decisions about our budget. I get to work on legislation, and so I'm here today to talk to you about my favorite legislation this year, which has taken myself, my staff, and now it's gone national. It's been a whirlwind. So when I first got into office, I wanted to run a bill to exempt menstrual products from taxes. And I don't call them hygiene products because they're not hygiene products. Our women's health, our period is not a hygiene. It's not a hygiene, it's part of our biology. It's things that we can't control and we deal with it for 40 years every month of our lives. And it always bothered me that I had to pay taxes on this. It always bothered me that they were just not accessible in the bathroom. How many of you have had an emergency? You're like, oh shoot, I really need something right now. And you don't know where to turn to, and you're like stuck in the bathroom somewhere, you're stuck at work. And so when I first got into office, I told my staff, I want to run this bill about taxes on tampons. And they're like, no, you know, you just got here, no one knows you, you're going to turn it into a big joke. And so for 3 years I listened to them, but this year I came back and I said, okay, we're going to do it this year because people know me enough, and it's time. It's time we have this discussion. So in January I introduced legislation that would exempt tampons, pads, cups, and sponges from taxes. It would be, we would be losing about $20 million. That's what we bring in a year. And when I first introduced it, for the first 2 weeks, people were like, oh my God, don't say tampon, that's so scary. Don't talk about period, that's so scary. Ew, that's so gross. I had names like Miss Flo, I'm Miss Maxie, I'm the tampon lady. They like to make jokes like it's gonna be a bloody fight. There's many more. So for 2 weeks, it turned into my staff's biggest nightmare that we were gonna be a joke. But for me, I was like, it's not about being a joke, it's about talking about why this is important. First of all, it's the only product of its sort that gets taxed. It's essential, it's considered a health product by the FDA, but it only affects females. So only females, we're being taxed every month for being born a woman. It's the only product of the sorts in our tax code. And so this tax inequity needs to go away. But the second part that's important about this piece is that we're talking about our health. Our periods should not be scary. Our periods should not be something that's gross. Our periods should not be like, oh my God, you're PMSing, you're such a bitch. Excuse my language, you're all adults in here. It shouldn't be that. Our periods is just a function like everything else, and we should just accept it and be able to talk about it, because when we don't, serious things happen. I have homeless women who tell me they've been using newspapers because they don't have access to these products. We forget to donate them to shelters and pantries where we normally donate other things, because we don't talk about it. It's out of people's minds. And that newspaper leads to infections, or worse sometimes. I have young girls in high school telling me that they're missing school because we don't talk about it, and they don't know who to turn to when they can't afford these products and where to go to. Sometimes they're available at their high schools and they don't even know that because we don't talk about it. I have young girls telling me that they've used socks at times in California, not in Africa, here in California. They use socks sometimes because they know that going to school is important and they can't miss school, so they use socks. I have women who tell me they have to use toilet paper wherever they could get it. But what happens then is that we get stains and it becomes more expensive, or you have that shame out there on a regular basis. I've had to learn to tell my friends in the legislature that I'm talking about that my period means it's something other than blue liquid, because that's what you look in the commercials, and it's not blue liquid that we're talking about. We're not running through fuels. The reality is that we get our period and we don't stop doing what we're doing, right? We have to keep moving forward, whether we have cramps, whether we have whatever going on. You have to keep doing what you're doing. But lack of access is a real issue for individuals. It shouldn't hold you back at school. It shouldn't be an issue if you're homeless, right? Imagine that you don't have access to this, but now imagine that you don't have access to take a shower either, or deal with all of that. It shouldn't make, because we don't discuss it, it shouldn't make our health issues worse. Where you have girls who are extending the life of these products, and not only are they getting infections, but they're getting toxic shock syndrome. This year we had another person in California die of toxic shock syndrome because they extended the life of that tampon because they couldn't afford another one. And so that's what's been exciting about this bill. It's getting through the joke, and I've embraced the jokes. I will talk about the bloody fight. I will talk about the Crimson Tide. All my stuff now ends with period at the end. My staff and I think we're witty. But I've embraced the jokes. It's a small thing to have to endure compared to what everyone else is enduring. To have a discussion and remind people of why this is important, and that women's health is not something that's bad. It's not something that's dirty. It's not something we should be ashamed of. But it's a part of reality, and we're all here because someone had a period. At the end of the day, and it's part of biology. And so my life has been all about tampons this year. I have other legislation, but this is the one that has gotten the most attention. Since I've introduced, 10 other states have introduced legislation. The state of New York introduced after me. They worked much faster than the state legislature in California. So now the bill has gotten out of the Assembly and the Senate with full bipartisan support, and is waiting for a signature from the governor. And he said he's going to sign it, which I hope that also pushes my governor here to sign that legislation. So it's exciting to see this take national attention, and it's exciting to talk about access. Now I have Target at the table, and they're working with me to figure out how we can get these products for free in school, so that girls don't have to miss school over this issue. We're working with all of my co-authors. I have 35 co-authors. Everyone went from being really afraid to now they want to co-author my bill, to do a statewide drive to collect stuff to donate to pantries and shelters to raise awareness about how we need these products that are also not just food and clothes and so forth. And so it's been exciting. I'll be the tampon lady for the next few years. I've accepted it. It's exciting to see this. It's exciting to expand what women's roles are, and it's exciting to talk about women's health beyond what's been traditional. I still work on gender equity, making sure we have enough women in the legislature and local office. I still work on pay equity. Latinas only earn 44 cents to every dollar that the white male counterparts earn. So I'm still working to try to close that gap. I'm still working to make sure more women are on boards and are leading companies and businesses. boys that are here, men. I only want half of the pie. I just want our fair share. I am supportive of men. So I'm still doing all those other things. I'm still working for environmental justice. But this year it's been a whirlwind, and if I'm lucky, in 2 weeks I'll get to do the Daily Show about tampons. And so it's been exciting to give a voice to all those young women who are afraid to speak up or ask for what they need, to tell them that it's okay, you don't have to be ashamed of our health as women. But the reality is that we don't talk about this in the legislature, and the 75% of the legislators are male, so this is not something they think about. So we're not talking about it, we're not educating, they're not going to be our partners, are giving us our space. You guys, as people in the health industry, get to see the impacts of us not talking about this on a regular basis. And so you are also gateways. You get to interact with people on a regular basis, and they trust you, right? They tell you everything, not just because they're sick, but they tell you all about their personal problems along the way. And so you also have a special connection to our communities to discuss these issues and make sure they're getting the help that they have. And so that's what I'm working on this year. You have some information in there. We have some pink flyers over here and some stickers. We're asking people to sign a petition to let the governor know that this is something that's important to all of us, and we're not going to be okay with him vetoing this bill. He has vetoed every tax exemption since he's been in office. And so we are working hard to make sure that he knows that it's not going to be okay, and he's going to have 52% of the population plus all of our enlightened men angry at him if he does not make sure we remove this tax inequity. Any questions for me? Questions? I have gifts for you guys.
Yeah, gifts.
When it comes into effect, when it will be on the ballot?
It won't be on the ballot. This actually would be, if it goes into, it goes through the process by October 15th. We'll know officially if it's law, maybe beforehand, if I get time beforehand. In January 1st of next year, it'll go into effect, which means that starting January 2017, when you walk into a store, you no longer will be taxed for these products. You are not taxed for candy right now. It's because someone decided that was essential to poor people's diets. I'm trying to fix that also. As you guys know, candy, snacks have a lot of bad effects on our community, so I'm not trying to get rid of them. I just want to bring them in out of the essential category and tax like everything else. That would bring $1.2 billion a year into our budget, so we could do a lot more, including the services that you guys provide.
I didn't hear that one.
How many signatures do I need? So I don't need any, it's not an exact number. So right now it works, I need to have 41 of my assembly members convinced that this is good legislation, and 21 of my senators. I need to get it through a bunch of committees, so it's going through that process. And so it's how many signatures are going to weigh the governor not to veto my bill when it gets to him? I don't know, right? So far we have, because there's a lot of different people working on this, we have like 60,000 signatures, but there's 40 million people in California. So if I want to make the case that we all want this, the majority wants this, then I need, well, not 20 million, because I guess kids don't vote, but I need a lot of signatures, so definitely need more help.
Now, is this bill only for the feminine products, or is it also for the drugs that we use, like Midol, Pamprin? Would that also be?
No, so this bill is only for the tampons, pads, menstrual cups, and sponges. All those other things, some of them over the counter are taxed. Part of the $1.2 billion that we're hoping to eventually bring back to the table with this candy stuff would help. We're hoping to create a list of essentials and have it be non-tax. Right now it's really weird what's an essential. In California, we're like this, we tax everything at sales taxes. But over the years, we've created exceptions because we think they are essential. So either the legislature exempts them, or in 1992, the voters decided candy was essential to poor people's diets. Someone to convince them of that. And so we've accepted things like Viagra is not taxed. We've accepted things like snacks aren't taxed. We've accepted things like if you buy a yacht, but you put your yacht someplace else for a year and then you bring it back to California, that's not taxed because somehow that's essential, right? So it just depends. Yes, I know, it depends. If someone can make a case, right? A lot of times people make cases with a lot of resources and you have all these weird assumptions. We don't tax food. That is essential. We tax toilet paper. We're trying to make sure we don't tax toilet paper. I have a second bill that we're working on. We tax diapers. We're trying to make sure that we don't tax diapers because those are essentials. We're also trying to create a voucher program. So if you're on food stamps, we would give you $50 a month towards diapers. That wouldn't cover your diaper need, but it'd help you out. So those are essentials. So we're trying to, but all of those things come with price tags, which is why I'm now attacking this candy issue and trying to bring in those dollars. you might see it on the ballot one day, which means you're gonna have to vote yes to tax that stuff, but you have to help with this other stuff.
So even if you have like a good amount of signature, he still has the right to veto it?
Yes, he has the right to veto it no matter what, right? But I'm just like, really? Like, look at all this. You really want us all throwing tampons and pads at you? No, don't do that. That might be considered assault. I didn't say to do that.
Is it like, same like, during, well, like feminine rights during that?
It wouldn't include feminine wipes. We had to keep it really narrow because that's the issue of like every time I add more things, it starts to suck up more money from the budget because this goes towards our budget, so I'm getting rid of right now these dollars. But also it's the idea, like technically I guess I don't need a feminine wipe, right? But I tell people, because someone told me, well, it's a hygiene product, so we shouldn't tax shaving cream and razors, because those are also hygiene products and men use those. Well, women use those too, and we pay more for them, first of all. Ours are more expensive, and we're also going to work on that next year. But I told women, okay, we're going to do this. For a month, no one's going to shave, and for a month, no one's going to deal with their period, and then we'll see what happens, right? Yeah, whatever. I can avoid, it's nice to have those wipes, but if I don't use them, I'm still not going to have a big mess everywhere, right? But yeah, so that's why, and so I have to be specific, but like I said, I'll be working on this. I'll be the tampon lady for the 4 years. I'm going to own it. I prefer Miss Maxi, actually. I'll be Miss Maxi for the next 4 years. I'm going to own it. It's okay.
And this is included educating young women that are just starting out.
Exactly. So the bill doesn't include education, but me being able to come to places like this, this last week I was in the cover of Newsweek, and the cover was red, and it said, "There will be blood, get over it," with the picture of a tampon. It talked about the Crimson Tide. I mean, think about it. We hide our periods, we hide our products in here, whatever you use, right? But like the cover in Newsweek was about our periods, like, that's part of what this bill's about and why we're going to keep doing this. So it doesn't include education. But I will say this, it's important. I don't know about you guys, but my mom talked to me about my period one time. And it went like this. My sister got her period when she was 10, and I'm a year older than her, and I hadn't had my period. And I was like 13, and I hadn't had my period. And she came up to me, she's like, "Are you lying to me about your period?" I'm like, "No, I haven't gotten it." She's like, "Okay, when you get it, talk to your sister, because she knows what she's doing." And that was the only discussion I've ever had about my period until now. My mom tracks my legislation, so she recently started talking to him about periods with my bill, so we've talked about periods 4 times now. But I think that's very common in a lot of our families out there.
Are you guys going to try to get like schools to talk about girls with periods?
Yeah, part of health education that we have out there includes things like our periods and women's health. But if you're a male teacher and you've been taught that this is scary, you don't talk about it, you might just kind of gloss over it quickly, right? So, but that's part of what UNEC does, that's part of what Planned Parenthood does, and that's part of why they're out here doing their outreach to have these discussions.
What do you think will be the biggest challenge you will face in getting this bill passed?
I think the biggest challenge is that we are taught not to talk about our periods. Some people are really uncomfortable about that. I think the second challenge is that 75% of people making decisions in the legislature are men, so they don't get it. So I think the biggest thing is I'm taking $20 million out of the budget because, here's what they tell me. Like, but we're guaranteed that money. Even during an economic downturn, we're guaranteed that money because you're always going to get your period and you're always going to get these products, so we can't afford to lose that money. And I'm like, wow. I was like, so you're telling me as a woman I have to have this extra burden that we're not going to put on men. It's only $20 million, which is 1/100th, I was a math teacher, 1/100th of 1% of our general fund for the state. We call this dust money. But people are in opposition because I'm taking guaranteed money because you're always going to have your period.
Is there a way to get this information, pass it on? Do you have a website?
Yes, I do. So if you pick up these little pink sheets, at the bottom are my social media handles. And if you go on there, you will see a lot of things about periods. But also you'll see other things, like today I posted about J-Lo this morning. I really like her new video, Meet Your Mama. I'm the vice chair of the Women's Caucus, so you'll see a lot of things about empowering women in general and getting our half of the pie out there and, just owning who we are. So yeah, so you could get that information there. We have some stickers. You can also pick that up. And if you go to pick this up, the link to my websites are also where you could sign the petition. But yeah, spread the word. We are working hard on this, and success this year means we'll have more success on the road to make sure that these things are for free. Eventually, I'd like to see this in a bathroom just like toilet paper. Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah.
So you said for schools that this is available for kids who, girls who are getting their period. Is there a way to make it more accessible to them so that they know that it's available?
Yes.
Maybe putting it into the bathrooms?
So some schools have it and some don't. We are trying to make sure all of our schools, from middle school and high schools, have them. And that's where Target's going to come in to help us to donate so that the impact to schools is not as big. And we are right now negotiating with the schools because they want to have vending machines. They want to still charge a quarter or whatever. And it's like, just have them there. Like, well, they're going to steal them all, or they're going to go put them around school and vandalize the school with them. And I was like, you know what? I've noticed who does that because I was a high school teacher for a long time. The boys. I was like, so don't worry about the girls. We're not the problem. And I think we realized that if we take them all, our sister's not going to have any next time. So we're going to try to take just what we need and be respectful. And so we're working with them to create a system so that it's more accessible, working to make sure that they're products that the girls want. Some of the schools have these really old, like 1970 pads, and the schools have them, and they're like, I don't want to use that. In an emergency, you're going to use it, right? But it's like, I want to be comfortable. I don't want to be walking around all weird. So we are working to make sure we have products that, if they want pads, they have pads that they're going to feel comfortable with. So we're not there yet. That's part of why I will be Ms. Maxie for the next few years, to make sure that we have it everywhere. Okay, ladies, I am excited to be here. Thank you. I'm going to give you this last thing, though. I was a good student and a good teacher, and I was in the classroom all my life. And it wasn't until I got to the legislature that I realized I had a responsibility to help other women. And it's hard because sometimes, you're one of the only women in the room. And as you move forward in your career, so I want you to figure out what your power is, whatever that is, and then use it intentionally to help other women. So I've learned now, because I wasn't good like this, to think about who is this a woman-owned space. So I'm going to go get new glasses. And I was like, I need to find a woman-owned optometrist, And so I try to figure that out. When I buy snacks for events like this, I'm like, do we have a woman-owned restaurant that we could go to? Because that's a way I can use my power on a regular basis. I have lots of other ways. So I'm an assembly member, so I realize I have a little more power. But think about the power you have and be intentional and be bold and take stands. A lot of times they're not popular stands, but they're the right stand. And I think that's how you're going to help move all of us forward. And so that's my request of you, separate from signing the petition. Thank you for having me. I want to present. Up here for the groups who are putting this together, and who, thank you first of all for taking a Saturday to come out here. I know it's your free day, but if you're here, that means other people have been working really hard to make sure there's a great program for you. And so I want to present them with a certificate from the State Assembly for their partnership in this Women Empowerment Forum and for everything they're doing for our communities. And so I'm going to start off with Planned Parenthood. Make sure you're asking about all the work they do. Next, I want to thank UNAC and UHCP. These are the nurses associations here for doing all the work they're doing in our district to create awareness and empowerment.